And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to another victorious edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After USC. Very first outing of these two players playing against each other. Very first time USC gets to play Indiana at Assembly Hall. Great moment, cool thing getting these two together for the first time. Even cooler that IU comes out with the win, winning 82-69, taking the record to 13-3 on the season, 4-1 in the Big Ten conference so far. Really a rough start. The first 8 minutes of this game, IU played very sloppy, had us all nervous, had me nervous as well, had me even tweeting the word woof on X as it was happening. And kind of the outings that we've seen before and made us all, I know, nervous because of after big wins or big play or road games, things like that. We've had Hoosier teams in the past that have kind of crumbled and struggled to find or keep the success that they've had, kind of allowed USC to get out on the break, get downhill, kind of got whatever they wanted. Then around the 10-minute mark or so, as USC had taken the lead to double digits, IU kind of narrowed in and focused on D, along with kind of a spark from Tucker off the bench and really Ballo taking over in the paint. IU would tie up the game at half. And then maybe, just maybe, as we look at things and I kind of delve down, maybe some credit for this turnaround in this game going to Chelsea, who's I know is a fan of the show, for getting engaged. That was right around that time in the game at 17-9 when the proposal happened, and IU locked in right after that. So Chelsea, if you're listening, let's get engaged more often at games, and congratulations to you on that. But the second half, IU really flipped the script, climbing into double digits. Lead by the middle of the half and really not letting go over that. Just overall, when you look at the score sheet in this one, a very balanced game going into it. Thank you for being here with us. I'm your host, Chad Schwartzkopf. Martha popping in here at the last moment and everything. Martha was at the game. Give me your thoughts on this and kind of how things felt at this game. I know the audience looked a little bit lower with students not in there and everything like that, but your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it was kind of an odd start, right? I mean, it's still one of those, while the holidays are over, it's still one of those, considered a holiday break game where the students aren't there. I was pretty shocked at the amount of snow that was in Bloomington. I mean, driving down from the northern part of the state, we didn't get much up here, so there was just mounds of snow everywhere, which I assumed probably affected some people's travel that were coming from further out, especially down in the southern part of the state. But it was a very thin crowd to start the game. It filled in nicely, and it was just an odd vibe, as it's been kind of, I've been now to 3 games this season, and they've all kind of been like that. And it's obviously different when the students aren't there, but it was certainly a little bit off, but crowd filled in. Game started much like the crowd's presence. It started off slow, right? And but they figured it out, which was nice to see. And you kind of saw it happen in motion. It wasn't beating a dead horse, or it wasn't, the definition of insanity and trying to get there. You've got to give some credit to the coaching staff for messing with the lineups. And we'll talk about individual players here shortly, but you got to give some credit for putting some guys on the bench, putting some people in position to succeed. And they worked through it. They ran some sets. It was an ugly start, but they figured it out. And at the end of the day, they ended up covering, which, it's good to see, because now you're sitting at 4-1 in the Big Ten. You've got a mountain of a schedule coming up, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But 4-1 in the Big Ten right now, I think a month and a half ago, anybody would have taken. So we're in a position to do some things, and that's all you can ask.
And I think a lot of that turnaround and movement from this team was due to the leadership that we have right now. Again, there's been other times in past seasons where we haven't seen who's going to step up and who's going to be that leader, who's going to not be okay with how things are going. And so far, who that has been recently has been Luke Goode. This is probably one of the best games we've had from him, or one of the better games so far this year. 16 points, 5 for 7 from the field, 4 for 5, an impressive 4 for 5 from 3, 2 for 3 for free throws. Just great to see him finally finding his rhythm and just really reap the benefits from his hard work and the leadership that we get out of him on the court. And it's perfect timing for him in a game like last night as well for IU, when IU is hosting a recruit who is an international player, a shooter as well, for IU to have their shooter and their best comp on the roster for him, lighting it up and doing really well. But just really kind of threefold in the benefit from him right now, with how vocal he is on the floor, having his experience and just everything that he can bring to that right now, and his shots going down. So that's beautiful. Your thoughts on Goode's impressive night?
I mean, you look at the box score, and all of a sudden he's leading the team in minutes played, and that's no surprise. I think the intangibles that you mentioned, from a leadership standpoint, when things are sliding a little bit, he's that voice, and you can see it from being demonstrative on the court. To bring guys together, it's clearly noticeable, especially when I'm sure it can be seen on TV, but when you're in there in person, you can just see a lot of the little things he does from a leadership standpoint. And then when the shots are starting to fall, which there were times where, he was found out on the perimeter, knocked down that shot. And the offense looks so much better when this team's hitting 3-point shots. And especially with Ballo down low, he can swing it out and find those guys that are open on the perimeter, and Luke's starting to hit him down more regularly, like he normally does. And it was a good day for Luke. His uncle Trent Green, we saw him at Knicks before the game, was there at the game, so that was exciting because he doesn't get back very often. So it was a good day for Luke. I think it's been a good stretch for Luke, and I think the good play is going to need to continue for this team to be successful, because he's really started to provide that spark. Early in the season, the shots weren't falling, the 3-point shots weren't falling, and he was taking some heat. It's like, why bring this guy in? But now everybody, I think, is starting to realize how valuable a guy like Luke Goode is, with the experience and the ability to knock down those shots, that it really gives Indiana a chance moving forward.
Yeah, he can get caught up a little bit on his on-ball defense, meaning that's being nitpicky in the situation of a game where all of his other things are overshadow that as far as benefits. So you'll take that. He does get matched up against other teams, really good players sometimes too. So sometimes that ends up happening. But you could also say that about a lot of the other team, the rest of the team, not be able to really kind of contain guys on the dribble. Another guy who continues to just be on the upward swing along the same path that we've seen Goode recently has been Ballo. Continues to be a beast underneath, leading scorer for this game, 23, very efficient, 9 for 11, and give the man on the bench a bonus. Mr. Chaney, 5 for 5 for 3 free throws in this game, 8 rebounds, just locked in and just hustling big time in this game. Another game in the books showing that IU needs to stick, obviously, with that one big lineup once Malik gets in there. And obviously, we don't know. We know it's a lower leg. We don't know when he's back. But just kind of best case scenario for Malik in the fact that he can ease his way back in, taking those like 7 to 10 minutes right now that Hatton's getting to spell Ballo, and eventually, maybe, hopefully, leading to a more balanced 20-minute share with these two big guys going in and out, weighing more minutes to the whichever big man is doing better things in that game. Hopefully we can see that going forward. And that way, what that also benefits, talking about that kind of thing, whether it's probably going to be Malik coming off the bench, we've had a lot of drop off with guys on the bench coming in, and to have who has been a leading scorer for IU coming off the bench, that drop off won't happen. So that's a good thing to see, possibly looking into the future. But again, in this game, Ballo continues to look good, and no concern about his motor. Didn't look overly tired even in all the minutes that he got. What were your thoughts on Ballo?
I think his game was kind of a mirror of the way the game went, kind of slow to start off the game, right? He wasn't getting many touches, and things seemed a little bit forced. But, when I think it was about the 5-minute mark in the first half, where Indiana really started to figure it out. USC had their guy get 2 fouls. He sat down, and they really started to punch it into to Ballo. And I think he either had 8 or 10 points to close the first half during that 5-minute stretch, which was huge for Indiana, not only to close that gap where USC had kind of came out hot, but really set the tone for the second half too. He watching him, he was demanding the ball, and he's getting fired up after he was making buckets or getting fouled. And to your point, the way he's making free throw shots too, he's not a liability once he does get fouled. So you just go back to what this opportunity, as unfortunate as Malik Renew's injury is, the opportunity it's presented this team and Omar Ballo. I do worry a little bit about depth when he gets, if he gets into foul trouble. I think, it is a little bit of a concern. I think because when you watch, I think Langdon Hatton, he does as well as he can, but I think he can be outmanned pretty easily at times. And when you watch Renew walk right now and before the game, and he may have a big brace, and I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but there is a noticeable limp, and he doesn't look like a guy that's anywhere close to being able to play. So, I'm not a doctor, I'll preface everything with that, but, heard a couple people around me say, man, he's really limping. And so again, he could have a massive brace on and could just be trying to support it, but this seems like it's going to be Indiana's roster for the foreseeable future. So again, I go back to depth a little bit. You got to keep him out of foul trouble, and obviously a man of his size, at times he's going to get gas. So I thought Woody and the staff did a great job of how they managed that last night, and hopefully we continue to keep him out of foul trouble. But he was, again, continues to be a man amongst boys, and got to continue to feed the beast down low, because it opens everything up for the IU offense.
Yeah, just love the adversity that he's overcome, the questions, the thoughts, the rumors, the Twitter pictures, all that kind of situation, and he's come over on the other side of that better than he could have. Other players and other teams and mentalities that you have and egos that you deal with nowadays could have easily just given up and kind of gone through the motions and collected their money and moved on. So great to see him with the right head on his shoulders and pushing through all this and taking advantage of those extended minutes and doing it in a good way. So continue those great things, Ballo. Great to see it. Thank you. Don't get injured because we're in a lot of trouble if something like that happens. Two guys that we kind of talked about in conjunction last show, and I think kind of deserve to be talked about in conjunction again, is our two lead ball handlers for this team, Rice and Galloway. Just a great second half from them, being those leading ball handlers. They scored almost half of IU's points in the second half, with 21 between the two of them of IU's 44, and also assisted in that second half on 14 of those baskets. So Rice really kind of got downhill a lot more in the second half, and really the second half of the first half, I will say as well. And then you just had those two great possessions where IU was working the dribble handoff and then screen and roll with Galloway and Ballo, and just beautiful basketball. It's what Hoosier Nation loves to see. And Gallo just proving how important he is and how good of a basketball mind he is. He's able to read those situations so well. Going up for a layup in the first time they ran that play, and then the second one, because they favored him a little bit more because he went to the basket, finding Ballo perfectly for the alley-oop on the second one. So just really love what those two guys are doing right now. Obviously, the one struggle point I would say to Rice is his three-point shooting. Hasn't really come along. He had a couple shots. He's getting good open looks. I want him obviously to take those, but those haven't been really falling down for him like they have in the past. Your thoughts on IU's two lead guards?
I thought, as big as Luke Goode was, Trey Galloway kind of did it. Kind of had the same impact quietly. I say quietly. He was really good at distributing the basketball. He's so good at those set plays. You mentioned the one where the ball was kind of rotated out on the perimeter with a couple handoffs, and he found Ballo for that alley-oop. I think that came out of a timeout. That was a really nice set, I think, designed by the staff. But just his ability to kind of curl on that high ball screen and either get the ball and shoot that little floating jump shot or find the roller. He's so good at that. And he's so good at getting downhill to the basket. He had a couple kind of boneheaded turnovers, but outside of that, I thought that looked like Trey in flashes last year and 2 years ago. He was really strong. And Miles Rice just continues to be the guy that I think a lot of folks expected him to be. I think, 3 out of his last 4 games, he's had really close, either 20 points or over. And that's huge for Indiana. Obviously, with the stretch of the schedule they're in, he's going to have to continue to play that way. And he is just so quick on the court. I mean, at times you just see him get down the court a little bit. He can be out of control at times, but he's so good at getting the ball down the court. And not only is he getting the basket and scoring, but he's also doing a great job distributing the basketball as well. You can see the offense opening up a little bit more. And it's no coincidence really that this spurt has kind of come where the court's opened up a little bit, as we've mentioned. So it's great to see some good games out of those guys.
Yeah, and someone that kind of struggled last night while everything was balanced overall for IU scoring-wise, the one spot it really wasn't balanced was Mackenzie. Mbako had a really, really tough game in this one. Really at the beginning of the game, missing a lot of shots, missing a three-pointer, missed a layup, then another three-pointer. And that was all kind of in that stretch where IU was struggling to get going and Southern California was really kind of building their lead. It's tough to see. And he only had 15 minutes and obviously IU was able to find balance and water elsewhere. And that's a good thing. Obviously, there's been other times where we've had to rely on players like him that we need whatever points they can bring to bring it every night. The fact that we have the depth that we have and we're able to shoulder that kind of thing is good. And IU was able to go to their bench and get a few contributions here and there to counteract that. But a tough one for Mackenzie to find. Any thoughts on his game last night?
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, I think, especially when you're coming off the stretch he had against Penn State and the game he had against Penn State, and to see that kind of, and I'll call it effort, because I think the most frustrating part is when the shots aren't falling for Mackenzie Mbako, he disappears. And a guy with his size and his ability, he should never disappear just because the shots aren't falling. I don't think I don't even know if he had any rebounds. But shots weren't falling. And for Mackenzie, you can kind of see it in effort and body language as well. When he's struggling, the shoulder slump, he's never been great defensively. There were times where it was way too easy, and it wasn't just him. But you could hear it in the stands, or especially in the first half, where it's the dribble drive to the basket. Indiana just continues to struggle defending it at times, and he's really one of the ones that are guilty of that. And I don't know if it's because of body language or he's just not that fast, but at times it looks like an effort thing with him or an engagement thing with him. And that's the frustrating part, because it really, really shows when he's struggling offensively. And you can see it on the bench a little bit when you watch him. When you watch him sit there, I just looked. He's had 1 rebound in 14 minutes of play, and for a guy of Mackenzie's size, that's pretty unacceptable. And Woody made some comments after the game that, will turn around and it'll be right back in there for him today. He was struggling yesterday. And, so you like to hear that out of a head coach, because we're going to need Mackenzie Mbako. But, you just kind of want to shake him and say, look, here's a guy that could go on and play at the next level. But scouts and everybody is going to see that, right? When things aren't going well and how he responds, it matters. And he's got to figure out a way to overcome some of that stuff and still find a way to impact the game when the shots aren't falling.
Yeah, and my assumption, and this is just taking a big leap in assumption on this, but many times when you see guys like Mackenzie, who has just been physically, as far as his height and everything, and then just athletically gifted the way he is, he's kind of come up through basketball and AAU circuit, and it's kind of the guilty fault of AAU and how things are now, where you watch any of those and not many guys are locked in on defense. You'll see it a lot more recently, I will say, but they're just not locked in. They're not playing defense. They're looking for those highlight reels and those things like that. And in his younger years in basketball, he's been able to just rely on his size and overall athleticism against guys. So he hasn't had that foundation to have to really work hard on defense. And getting into college for guys like McKenzie, this is kind of the first time they really have to work at that side of the ball. So it's just a struggle for it to come around for him, and he's obviously still working at it, and it's a struggle for most of the team. So obviously it's not just him there. So hopefully it'll still come around. It's again a guy that you can forgive those situations when he's knocking them down on the other end, and unfortunately in this game he wasn't knocking them down, and so his troubles on the other end led to minutes going down. He had 7 of his 8 missed shots were in the first 10 minutes of the first half. So it kind of shows you there where it was. But because of that, IU went to the bench, and Tucker got a little bit of an extended play in this game, 25 minutes for him. Finished 9 points, 4 for 9 from the field. Took a 3 and missed it, 1 for 2 from the field. 4 rebounds, though, is good to see. He was engaged in that goes, but you kind of got those circus shots to drop this time from Tucker. Those great one-footed fadeaways, and then a beautiful spin move from him as well when he was kind of near the rim in this game. But good Tucker, good minutes, little wild. Thought he did okay on defense. Your thoughts on Tucker's game?
Yeah, he's got that wild ability to get that little short 15-foot jumper off, 12-foot jumper off, and it looked clean last night. I think, 4 for 9. He did miss. He missed some easy ones. With a guy like Bryson, and to get him 25 minutes, I think is important. But just a guy that's got to play within the offense, sometimes it can seem like he's kind of looking shot first, or really looking to get his shots off. So you got to make sure they're kind of in the flow of the offense and they make sense. And I thought for the most part they did last night, but he's really smooth around the bucket, getting that shot off, tough to defend. And I thought he was a little bit more engaged defensively as well. So valuable minutes, I think. We've talked a lot about the hit that the Indiana depth, the bench depth is the hit that's taken over the course of the last month, losing Renew and losing Gabe Cupps. And, at times, and with as challenging of a time as Carlisle's had it, who do you turn to, right? And so to get a guy like Bryson some continued confidence, I think is really, really important. So I thought it was valuable to get him those 25 minutes last night. And I think he came in and made a pretty positive impact. You're going to have some ups and downs with a freshman, but just make sure that those shots come within the flow of the offense and that they make sense, because he's certainly a guy that can give you some points.
Yep, you teased it a little bit there. Carlisle continues to kind of struggle coming off the bench. Did at least see 1-3 go down. Thought he brought back a little bit of some of that lockdown defense we saw earlier in the year from him. I think that's, again, where he needs to have his mentality and lead with when he gets into the games. Just be that lockdown ball defender that you've shown before. Kind of things that we used to see from Xavier Johnson sometimes. He's got that similar kind of on-ball defense that he can do. He's gone away from that in past games. But right now, he's still hunting for his shots. We can't have that in games like we did last night when we had other guys that were knocking down their shots. You're taking away made baskets from guys that are in rhythm and have found their rhythm in that. I get it on other nights where we're struggling and trying to find where that spark is happening, but not in nights like that. There's going to be more leash in other games for that. And again, this is criticism both on him and then equal criticism to the coaching staff for not putting him in those situations. I always look when he first comes in, what does his first shot look like? And I always want to see a designed or run play to get him in a high percentage area of the court to see the ball go in the net, because that's just going to pay dividends for him. And each time in these last couple outings, I just see him finding his own shot and hucking one up. So I put that on the coaching staff. I want to see them run a play for him once he gets in there to see what that can jumpstart for him, because I think if that can happen, it'll bring dividends. Your thoughts on Carlisle? The Carlisle conundrum, maybe we need to call it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. When you look at kind of the game log of his season, it's not pretty. He's had a couple good games against Minnesota at home. He had 14 points, and then against South Carolina, he had 12 points, and those came playing about 25 minutes of game action. But it's just been rough. His field goal percentage is really poor. I think might be 14-15%, something like that. I'm not maybe a little higher than that, but it's rough.
28%
looked
right
a little
now.
more engaged last night, and 28%.
Yeah, he's 28% on the season right now.
Still, for a guy that last year was so not great, but a guy that, obviously we've talked about it, right? He was a guy that, you brought him in for a reason, and a guy that had a lot of success at Stanford in last season and scored double digits, and I think was all Pac-12 at some level. And, a guy that I think everybody thought might have a little bit more of an impact. Started the season off as a starter, went through his thing in Atlantis where he didn't play. And, it's been kind of a frustrating stretch for Carlisle, and one that I think everybody's hoped that he's worked through. But it's starting, you're starting to get enough of a blueprint that maybe this is the Carlisle we've got, and got to figure out how to continue to get him a little bit of confidence. He didn't look as rattled when the shots didn't fall last night. I think he did a better job of staying active defensively. But again, I go back to that depth piece where Indiana doesn't have much anymore. You've got to find a way to get some activity out of Carlisle, specifically offensively, when he is out on the court, because he's got to be able to provide that spell for our starters. So hopefully, it's a work in progress, but you're running out of time to kind of have that time to get him right. So, hopefully that switch flips soon.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to look at and see, because it's there. The game is there. There's proof. There's tape, and I've said it a million times on this show. And it's a good thing, I guess, in the realm that if IU can unlock that, and if he can find that, it just elevates the team overall. So here's to hoping he does. But at least the positive side is that it's not necessarily, at least right now, something that we have to depend upon. So there's been other things, and everyone, I think Goode hitting and firing on all cylinders right now is able to kind of shoulder the expectation that we had coming into this season from Carlisle, and what we hoped he could be in this season. I'm going to, because I put you in the tough spot before, Martha, I'm going to kick it to you first. Tell me about some stats in this game.
Oh boy, I'm not used to see. Normally, I kind of glaze over the stats and have to edit and kind of change what I'm saying based off you stealing all of the good ones. Let me take a peek here. Maybe you should go first. I thought, we continue. I feel like to shoot really well at the free throw line. That's been with Mike Woods and coach teams. That's been a real struggle point for IU, but close to 80% again last night. And when you're getting that type of, I think you gave credit to Calvert Cheney, but when you're getting that type of production out of Ballo, when he's going 100% from the free throw line, that's huge for Indiana, right? Because he's a guy that's going to get fouled a lot. Historically, not a great free throw shooter. So I thought that was pretty impressive. I think a key for this team, really in this stretch of wins, these conference wins, has been the way they've rebounded the ball. And 29 defensive rebounds, 11 offensive rebounds. They out rebounded both of those stats. They out rebounded USC, and that's been kind of a trend here with their wins, the way they've rebounded and outright rebounded their opponents. So it's been big. It's kind of been odd. You had two bigs on the floor at times and struggled to rebound. You go to a smaller lineup and all of a sudden you're rebounding the ball well, which has been interesting and something we can talk about later. But I really think the way that IU's rebounded the ball has been key in the way they've kind of started playing a bit better.
Yeah, and one of the better stats you can look at, as far as at least from the ratio, largest ratio I think of the season for IU is the turnover to assist. Just 6 turnovers in this game to 17 assists. That's great to see. Just 1 turnover in the second half. Martha kind of teased it about the free throw shooting, and right now in the season, IU is shooting 72% from the free throw line. So that's fantastic. Obviously, the one thing really drawing that down has been a 59 average from Ballo on the season. But obviously, that's skewed to how badly he shot it at the start of the season. He's only been up from there. I don't have the ability right now to look at how he's averaging in these last few games, but obviously a lot better than previously what we've seen. Defense also, I think, is something to look at in this game. If you look at how they ratcheted down in the second half, IU defense a lot better, only limiting USC to 34.5 shooting from the field in the second half is fantastic to see as well. So good stats overall in this game to pick apart if you'd like to in this game. But IU's next game coming up, they are on the road, but after that, they have one of the bigger home games of the season, the Illinois game. If people can't go to that game, tell them what they can do with those tickets.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. And it is a stretch of games that obviously I'm looking forward to, because I think you're gonna figure out if this team is for real or not. It starts with Iowa this weekend, but then back at home against Illinois, and that's a big one, right? It's on a Tuesday night. It's sometimes weekday games can't be made for whatever reason, other commitments, things of that nature. If you've got tickets and can't use them, I think with the way this team is playing, they deserve our support down the stretch here. Obviously, we've got we had over 40 people in Assembly Hall last night. Those holiday break games are huge for us, and donations tend to trickle down when the students get back and the beef of the conference season starts getting played. But if you've got tickets and can't use them for whatever reason, if there's weather in your area, if you've got commitments, we would love to find homes for those, and you can do that. Make that donation by going to our website at HoosierTicketProject.org/donate. If you want to learn more about us, you can learn there too, or feel free to always hit me up, and I can let you know what we're all about. But it's been a great start to the season. We're looking to finish the second half strong as well by getting as many folks as we can to the games. We're really appreciative of everybody that's taken part in what we do.
Yeah, and along with those donations, don't forget, people, also you can nominate. If you have someone, a loved one, a friend, a coworker, someone that you know in passing or something like that, that's a huge fan, you can also go to HoosierTicketProject.org and nominate someone to receive those tickets. Give me your closing thoughts on this game as we wrap up this show.
Yeah, I think it's when you think about things and the way it's been such an interesting year. I think from my perspective, it's almost like people are looking for any reason not to get engaged. And I know that sounds awful, because I think so many people were, and we've talked about it, just left with a sour taste on how things ended last season and things that were said and done and all that. And we don't need to get into that, but just I think everybody was just like looking to get through this season, expecting it to go one direction, and not really. Not, a lot of apathy, whatever, and just looking for any reason not to get engaged. But there's been enough of, now we're at a point where, 3 losses, we're 4-1 in the conference. It's like, okay. And you look at the resume and sure, there's not a whole lot of beef to it. We've won the games we're supposed to win. We didn't take advantage of some of those early season opportunities in Atlantis. And, we've got a lot of work to do from a resume standpoint, but we haven't harmed ourselves very much. And you look at the winning 9 of the last 10 games, and, this team, I think, is playing with some confidence, and you're going to learn very, very quickly what they're all about. And I think, they've done enough. The efforts there, like they deserve our support as hard as it might be for any given person, which sounds ridiculous on the surface. I think this team right now, deserves the support of this fan base, deserves everybody to buy in a little bit and kind of push them in the right direction, because it's kind of a clean slate going into the rest of the season. Indiana's in a position to finish at the top of the Big Ten, to earn their way into the NCAA tournament. So why not get behind that team? The rest will take care of itself, and I truly believe that. And I think this team's done a nice position of putting themselves in a position to have some success down the stretch. Now, it's going to be up to them to do it, but there hasn't been that boneheaded loss. You think about last season, we lost at home to Nebraska, to Penn State, to Northwestern. Nothing like that's happened yet this year. Indiana's gone on the road and beat Penn State. So there's been some signs, some bright signs, and I think right now we just need to get behind this team and really try to continue to push them along to have some success.
Yeah. What you got to remember is the trajectory of this team currently as we sit. Don't be a pessimist. Don't be the fear of what could happen in the negative. Just look at what we're going right now. We're moving on the right way. We're moving up, moved up in the Ken Palm to 51 in this one. Just feeling a lot better overall. Think about the issues that this team has had. 3-point shooting, the rebounding, those types of things have been in the better, have been towards the positive. So we're heading in the right direction. Things could be a lot worse. If you talked to us early on and you said that we're currently sitting right now at the start of Big Ten play and Malik is out with a questionable time of when he's going to be back, we'd be very concerned because of this performance, because that was the bet at the beginning of the year that IU had made, was all the points in the paint off of those big guys. That's not to say that this wasn't a game where that balance we found and we're able to hit, where we dominated in the paint when the end of the game and when all the stats came in. IU dominated the paint, and we also made it from the outside. So overall, a very balanced game and everyone heading into the right direction. So just a good way, good thing to be. Quick turnaround, obviously, in this one where IU plays at Iowa. The late game, 8 p.m., and then obviously quick turnaround again to Tuesday night against Illinois, one of the top 10 or top tier teams in the Big Ten. So not an easy home game, not necessarily an easy away game, as any Big Ten away game can be difficult for IU, but happy to be where we are and where we sit. Look to see a little bit of a bounce back from Mbako in this upcoming game, and other guys to just continue on the positive that they have moving forward. Thank you for being with us on this show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at General Chadwick for myself, at the Mop Lady for Martha. There you can find out more information about the show when we're going to go live. Thank you for watching on Twitter. Those of you that are there watching, those of you on YouTube in the chat, those of you listening on podcast streams, hello, thank you to you as well. We'll be back again Sunday morning to react to the Iowa game, and hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully it's a positive one. We'll see you with your coffee and join us in the chat. I promise you, Jennifer won't bite too hard in that YouTube chat. But until then, go out there, have yourselves a wonderful day, and as always, let's go Hoosiers.